What's good? It's your man 100 Grand Russ with The Rock Never Stops. We got to get into this, man, because I've been talking to y'all about Jonathan Kaminga since before he got drafted. If y'all go back in the annals, you could pull up the receipts. Pull up the receipts. I've been talking about Jonathan Kaminga since before he got drafted. I've been telling y'all he's him. He's him. People don't realize in that draft with Cade Cunningham, Jalen Green, Evan Mobley, Franz Wagner, uh, Josh Giddey, Jalen Suggs. I can go on and on. Jalen Johnson, Trey Murphy the third, all these guys. Leading up to that senior year, Jonathan Kaminga was the number one, number two rated prospect of that draft. All the way through. He ends up going to G League Ignite instead of going to college. And then we kind of overanalyzed his game. And then people, didn't think he could be him, or they criticized too much. And then he dropped down in the draft to number 7, fell to the Golden State Warriors. And yet, I still kept telling y'all he's him. I've been saying Jonathan Kuminga was probably the third best prospect in that draft. You got Cade, you got Evan Mobley, and then you had Jonathan Kuminga. I said it, I called it, I told y'all. I thought the Toronto Raptors should have been the ones to draft him. I said, and you can quote me on this. You go back and quote me on this. I said that the Toronto Raptors think that Scotty Barnes is who Jonathan Kuminga is. A downhill scorer who can get to the free throw line and be your number one scorer on a playoff team to potentially get to the championship. If they had drafted Jonathan Kuminga, I think they probably still have Pascal Siakam there because that pairing works. That's just to the side. We all know how it unfolds. But then you saw the Golden State Warriors pick up Jonathan Kuminga, and then they had a problem on their hands. They had Andrew Wiggins, who I think they were probably ready to move on from, except they have that championship run 21-22 season. And then what you see is things unfold. It's a fight for minutes. You got guys like Gary Payton the second. Gary Payton II. You got Moses Moody, who unfairly got bench splinters throughout most of his early career. You got the Stephen Curry regime with Clay was still there at the time. And then you had Draymond Green, and he was running the show. And to an extent, Draymond has been running the show for a long time. But something happened this season. The Golden State Warriors began to really show their age. And when I say they, I'm talking about the Draymond Stephen Curry pairing. Began to show their age. Began to show that they are no longer a duo that you can build around. You can no longer have a system that is focused on Stephen Curry and Draymond Green and a shooter who works off ball. And that's enough to get you into the playoffs or into a championship run or out of the first round at least. And so they brought in Jimmy Butler. Now here's the thing. Jonathan Kaminga has been doing this thing. Whenever he gets minutes, he shows you what he can do. He shows that he could be a high-level player. High-level player. But at the same time, he also shows you that he needs a different type of system. Jonathan Kuminga has always needed a different system than what the Golden State Warriors presented. But because Stephen Curry was still and is still the man there, and Steve Kerr is the coach that he was unable to fluctuate and move the team around. Now, here's the challenge. Jonathan Kaminga gets hurt. The Warriors are struggling greatly. Andrew Wiggins is not able to pick up the production. So the Golden State Warriors make a move. They go out and get Jimmy Butler. And Jimmy Butler essentially saves their season. And then Jonathan Kuminga comes back. And then they realize they have a problem at the forward position. Jonathan Kuminga is not a 2. Neither is Jimmy Butler. Stephen Curry is not really a 1, if we want to keep it 100 and be honest. And so what you're seeing is now Jonathan Kuminga, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green all sharing that forward spot. But here's the difference now. They can no longer suppress, they can no longer minimize the talent, the potential, the production that Jonathan Kaminga has always shown the ability to do. Now, people will say he hasn't always produced in this way. I will challenge you to say he has rarely been given the green light reins of the show. And he still doesn't have the reins. But at this point, he's less focused on deferring to someone else. When he's getting the ball, he's getting downhill. When Jonathan Kaminga gets that ball, he's looking to get a bucket. And because he's in that mode, because he's locked in that mindset, it allows him to simplify things. You know, a lot of people wanted to critique and say, like, hey, he still has a high learning curve. He has to learn how to do all these extra things, playing off the ball, moving without the ball, do the little things, dive on the floor, make the right reads, make the right passes. I'm like, look, he's not Andre Iguodala. There's one Andre Iguodala. In fact, there's one Jimmy Butler. Jonathan Kuminga doesn't need to be either of those guys to be great. Either of them. And yet, that was continuously used as a way to minimize his value so that they could get away with not being able to utilize his talent. And so when you see how things have evolved for Jonathan Kuminga, you began to realize that it appeared to me, at least on the outside, that the fix was in. They were not going to let him loose. They didn't want to trade him because he was too talented. They didn't want to be in the position where they had to pay him because of their glutton at the forward position. Because now you're paying somebody starter money who you don't have a starting position for. And then the playoffs unfolded. Unfairly getting bench splinters against the Houston Rockets. And then you have Steph goes down with the hamstring. And now the cat's out the bag. The cat's out the bag. Jonathan Kuminga is an all-star. He's a potential superstar level talent. He has abilities that few players have, especially at his size. I did a video, I want to say last summer, and I was giving a comp to who I think Jonathan Kaminga can become. I said Jaylen Brown from the Boston Celtics. Yes, Eastern Conference Playoffs MVP, NBA Finals MVP, NBA champion, Supermax salary up until Jason Tatum's contract, the largest contract in NBA history. Jaylen Brown, the 6'7", athletic, physical, downhill scoring, built for the playoffs, forward. Now, a lot of people might look at this playoffs and be like, well, he's not performing this year. Well, you know, it wanes from year to year. Not in terms of his talent, but things happen. He might be dealing with an injury people don't know about. Maybe there's some politicking going on. Maybe there's some things behind the scenes we don't even know about, but the talent is there. That's the talent that the Golden State Warriors have been sitting on all this time. And the excuse has been, well, we got this guy, Stephen Wardell Curry, that we have to build around. And so they keep focusing on him with an offense that revolves around him. And if we're honest, that 21-22 championship season threw a lot of their plans off course. Because of that championship, they had to double down. They had to keep Steve Kerr. They had to continue to try to remake those championship rosters around Steph to something that was comfortable for him, something that was consistent for him. And really, it spoke to the lack of creativity by Steve Kerr. They did not pull the trigger and make the moves that they needed to. They should have moved on from this system a long time ago. They probably should have moved off of Draymond Green a long time ago. But because they doubled down on Steph, they had to double down on what makes Steph, which was an off-ball shooter who creates spacing, and Draymond Green, who assists on nearly, I want to say like 60 to 70% of Stephen Curry's points and shots. And when you have that dynamic, you have your best player in franchise history, you just run with it. And that's what they chose to do. Now, I think that there were some mistakes and there was challenges in building the roster, but they needed to put a real center next to Draymond Green. I think they'll do that this offseason. But the problem is now Jonathan Kuminga looks like a superstar. The cat's officially out of the bag. And they have to figure out what direction they're going to go. Either they are going to make a break from what they have done over the years and make room for Jonathan Kaminga, which is really what this video is about, or he's gone. He's gone. You look at teams like the Utah Jazz, the Brooklyn Nets, both who are vying for the Cooper Flag sweepstakes. But right now, Jonathan Kuminga is everything that you hope Cooper Flag becomes on the offensive end. Everything. You see the downhill scoring, the elite athleticism, the shot creation, the ability to impose his physical will, getting to the rim, getting to the free throw line, knocking down open shots, being able to play all over the court. But here's the thing, only one of those teams can get him. The Bulls are also trying to get him. But only one of those two teams are going to be able to get him. And that's going to leave other teams out who are still needing a franchise player, a dominant wing forward, score, a guy to build around for the future. And I think both of those franchises, including the Bulls, but both of those franchises, Utah Jazz, the Brooklyn Nets, they should be looking at giving Jonathan Kuminga a max salary offer. And I say offer because he's a restricted free agent. Restriction that allows the Golden State Warriors to match. But the problem is they can't necessarily match when you're already above the salary cap. And when you also have to pay Stephen Curry, he's going to be getting paid $59 million next year. Jimmy Butler's going to be paid $54 million next year. Draymond Green is going to be paid $25 or $26 million next year. And this is where I think they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do. The thing is, Jimmy Butler can play Draymond Green's role in facilitating at the top of the key, looking for Stephen Curry, doing dribble handoffs, things of that nature. He can play between the 3 and the 4 position. That's what Jimmy Butler can do. But the problem is Jimmy Butler really doesn't play more than about 50-something games a year. That's the reality as well. Even though you get playoff Jimmy, even though he does some spectacular things in the playoffs, he has the ability to elevate his game and play at a superstar level. He averages around 50 to 60 games a year. And sometimes he misses the playoffs. So this is something that they're also factoring in, but this is what you bought into when you brought him there for Andrew Wiggins. So then you say, okay, well, if Jimmy Butler is our incumbent small forward and we have to ride with him, we have to make financial room, which means, does Draymond leave? Do we trade Dre? Because I could completely see a team like the Phoenix Suns looking at Draymond Green and saying we could use him. We can use a culture changer. We can use a defensive anchor. We can use a leader. We can use somebody who brings that fire, right? I think he can unlock Devin Booker in a major way, unlock that roster in a major way by being that selfless guy that just moves the ball around and flies around on defense and brings that energy. He could be almost a coach on the floor. He knows what guys are supposed to be doing. That could be a move, especially with Kevin Durant on his way out of Phoenix. All that's to say is there are other franchises who can use, am I on StreamYard? No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm not even familiar with it, to be honest. Tell me about it. But when we think about these Golden State Warriors and the decision that they have to make, these are the layers of it. Because if they keep Kaminga, if they match his nearly max salary contract offer, which he deserves and has shown overwhelmingly, he deserves it. There is no reason why he shouldn't be getting a $30 million plus max contract offer from one of these bottom feeding teams who desperately need a culture changer, somebody they can build around, somebody they can depend upon to put up 20 plus points a game, night in, night out, and in the playoffs. See, as good as LaMelo Ball has been, as talented as he's been, he's only available a fraction of the season. And he'll look great for the fraction he's there, and then the team will be left hanging when he's not. They don't have anybody else. The Chicago Bulls, they're still trying to figure it out. You got many of these teams who lack an identity, who lack that guy. The team that I probably like the best for Jonathan Kuminga, if I'm honest, is the Utah Jazz. I think they have a coach who is built from that ilk of how do I maximize each piece And so he can create an offense around Kaminga and Laurie Markkinen, which could be a great duo. I like Isaiah Collier from last year, who was drafted by them. He could be a nice floor general piece, and then maybe a shooting guard like Colin Sexton or even Keontae George. I think they need some more defense on the perimeter around those two. But Walker Kessler, anchor in the middle, I can see it. But the Golden State Warriors are going to have to figure out what they're going to do. Because if you keep Jonathan Kuminga, not only are you probably losing Draymond Green, you're probably also having to get rid of Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr has had no idea how to make the most of Jonathan Kuminga's talent. He's had him for 4 years. You already know what it is. Kerr does not have the ability. Maybe he's growing, he's trying. It doesn't matter. He has not shown the ability to maximize the young talent on this team. You bring in the coach from Oklahoma City, you bring in the coach from the Utah Jazz, you bring in JB Bickerstaff from the Pistons, you bring in a Tyronn, you bring in so many other coaches whose specialty, whose expertise in X's and O's and schemes is centered around the ability to maximize any talent, any and all talent. It doesn't matter who I got. I'll figure out how to integrate them so each piece is able to maximize their abilities and they can build confidence in the system that they're playing in so that they're able to maximize their potential for the betterment of this team and their ability to win. That is not Steve Kerr. If you retain Jonathan Kuminga this offseason as the Golden State Warriors, Steve Kerr has to go. It's that simple. Maybe you bring in the Memphis Grizzlies previous coach. Maybe you bring in Michael Malone from the Denver Nuggets, even though he's not necessarily known for developing the young guys. He was when he was in Sacramento. He was when he initially got there to Denver. All to say is he might be able to rekindle that magic, right? He might be a great pickup for the Golden State Warriors. All to say is they're going to have to figure that out. They have to figure out at this point, Jonathan Kuminga has forced their hand into a crossroads. Who are they going to be moving forward? Because Stephen Curry is not getting younger. He's no longer the guy who runs more than any other player in the NBA on the court. He's no longer that guy. He's no longer the guy who can run off the screens all day long, run around guys, and then get a shot off. He's no longer worth necessarily building your entire team around. He's still a great player. He still has the ability to get off and be the best player on the court at any point in time. But he's also showing you he's more of the finisher. He's more of a closer than he is the guy who carries you there and through. And it's interesting that as his career has evolved into a better game finisher, he's also slowed down. He's also slowed down. Instead of running around screens, he's operating more in dribble handoffs. Instead of running off ball a whole lot, now he's ISOing at the top and doing pick and rolls. And so something to consider is, well, potentially you can move on from Draymond Green and bring in a better center prospect. Maybe you bring in some more size in the front court. Maybe you begin to recalibrate this roster to include guys like Brandon Pajemski, Moses Moody, Jonathan Kuminga, Jimmy Butler, a little bit more. Because if you keep Kuminga, you got to move Butler to the 4. That just is what it is. Because you can't bring him off the bench making $30 million. You can't. And if I'm Brooklyn, if I'm Utah, I'm trying to steal him. I feel like the only way that a team doesn't give him a max contract is if there's some sort of what do they call it when owners get behind collusion? Some sort of collusion where they're talking to each other like, look, I'm trying to keep this guy. Don't offer him the bag. And that stuff has happened before in the past. It has. I wouldn't be shocked if it happens again. All to say, though, he deserves it. What he's been doing in these playoffs against the Minnesota Timberwolves, against a great Minnesota Timberwolves defense, not a good defense, a great defense. A defense that has been able to shut down, slow down the best. And Jonathan Kuminga is absolutely destroying them. He is a problem. I want to say that again. Jonathan Kuminga is a problem. In just these 2 games, what he's shown. Being able to start games 8 for 8, 4 for 4 in the playoffs, being able to get where he wants on the court. The only thing that honestly that slows him down many times is teammates getting his way. And I get it. They haven't had time to build continuity together. All the lineup fluctuations and changes and guys in and out of the rotation. And I don't think anybody has great chemistry playing with each other at this point, outside of Draymond and Steph. And giving Draymond the reins in order to unlock Stephen Curry to build around him offensively, that has been at the exclusion of everyone else. All the other young guys, Pajemski, Moody, etc. Now, here's what I would do if I'm the Golden State Warriors. I would see for one of those lottery teams like Utah, Washington, um, Chicago, maybe, I don't know, Phoenix. Let's say somebody messes around and they fall out of position for where they want it to be. And they can offer you a draft pick, their first round draft pick, to sign and trade Jonathan Kaminga for, including that first round pick and maybe a veteran to match the contracts. And you go and trade Kaminga and get you a starting center. I like the kid out of Stanford, Maxime Reynaud. I think he's going to be really nice. He's a senior, he's seasoned, high IQ. Um, he's got a nice game, can shoot outside. Imagine a 7'1", far more athletic and agile, and far more skilled post. All right, Quentin Post. Like he really is Laurie Markkinen. 7'1" Laurie Markkinen, who plays better at the center position. He's like a power forward center. All this to say is that's what I'm probably doing. Let him move on. You still got Steph. He's been your guy. You got Draymond. He's your culture. You got Jimmy. You know that trio works. But you got to get the right piece. You got to get the right piece. And Kuminga has never been the right piece for this system. You're not going to get rid of Kerr, more than likely. I don't think they have the desire to go through that media storm and resetting, especially in the twilight of Steph's career. I think they just double down and double down and double down. And in that case, it is what it is. But move on from Kaminga. Let him go. Let him go. It's too late now to start trying to rebuild for the future. You should have did that a long time ago if you were going to do it. Instead, you got Draymond, you got Jimmy, you got Steph. That's your core. Bring in veterans who can plug and play. It was a shame that DeAnthony Melton got hurt, because if he didn't get hurt, it would have changed this team completely. But the thing is, I'm going to be honest, Steve Kerr is still on struggle when it comes to coaching X's and O's and schemes and rotations. That's too many areas to be at a below average. It's too many areas. It's too many areas. I think they need to bring in another personality. I like Michael Malone for these Golden State Warriors. I would probably bring in Michael Malone no matter what, unless they get past the Timberwolves and they're in the Western Conference Finals. And they have a good run in the Western Conference Finals. And even then, I might let go of Steve. Look, you've done a great job, great service. But you just don't have the ability to unlock this team moving forward. You don't have the ability to maximize. I went back and watched the Golden State Warriors game, because many times I watch these games multiple times before I do any type of video on it and talk about it. And when I watched Jonathan Kaminga out there and Jimmy Butler, there was a lack of balance on the court. Guys didn't know where to be. These things should have been very clear early. Let's keep the court balanced. Jimmy, you're on this side. Jonathan, you're on this side. Draymond, if you're going to be at the top of the key facilitating, you got to make sure you swing that ball to the opposite side. Make sure you're keeping Kuminga involved just as much as Jimmy, because these are your two best scorers. You can't go 3-4 possessions in a row and Kuminga hasn't touched the ball. You can't just stick Kuminga in the corner anymore. He should be involved in all these actions, whether it's in the post, high-low between him and Jimmy, whether it's getting downhill and looking to kick the ball out in the corner. Let's get some more spacing out there. Here's the thing also. Jonathan Kuminga is not known as a three-point shooter. Neither is Jimmy Butler. And neither is Draymond Green. Having all three of them out there is bad for business. Maybe if you put Quentin Post and let's say a Buddy Hield and Draymond's running the point, sure, maybe that could work. But Steve is not scheming in that way. He's not scheming around maximizing each individual. He's scheming around what they kind of used to always do. Because there's sometimes I don't know why Draymond has the ball in his hands. When you got Jimmy and Kaminga out there, we don't need you running dribble handoffs. We don't. You're in the way. You need to be doing off-ball screens for Buddy Hield. Go set the down pick for Quentin Post or Brandon Pajemski. Go do something else. We don't need you to play point guard because I'd rather have Jimmy at the top of the key making decisions. I'd rather have Jonathan Kaminga getting downhill than you with the ball deciding who gets the ball. I watched Draymond Green facilitate a possession. Shot clock is running down. Kaminga's on his right wing. Gary Payton II is on his left. And I believe it was Trace Jackson Davis on that side as well. Two non-shooters. Two non-shot creators. Less than 10 seconds left on the shot clock. He doesn't even look Jonathan Kaminga's way. I know he has good floor vision. I know he knows how to facilitate. He doesn't even look Jonathan Kaminga's way. He swings it to Gary Payton II with less than 10 seconds on the shot clock to try to create a shot. That to me, that's not even a low IQ play. That's a deliberate, nah, this is what we're going to do. For better, for worse, because this is who we are. You know, I keep hearing this thing that comes out of Golden State Warriors commentators throughout these playoffs is playing the right way. I'm so tired of hearing that. Now it's sounding like code for shut up and just fit in to what we do, for better, for worse. Shut up and dribble. Just run around out there, play defense, hustle plays, make good passes that eventually, hopefully, end up in Stephen Curry's hands for a three. That's what it's sounding like code for. Yeah, I know. Don't complain about what's not going right or going well. No. Just do what we're telling you to do. That's what it sounds like playing the right way sounds like. Because the thing is, Greg Popovich, who extols players to play the right way, he's able to make the most of a Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson. He's able to make the most of not just a Victor Wembanyama and develop his game, right? He's already proven he's developed Kawhi Leonard, right? He's developed guys. He's incorporated young guys, a young Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili, and he's developed young guys who have come along, who have been assets, who have developed within his system. But here's the thing. There's a big difference between told to play the right way and the right way is working for everybody versus when the right way is just working for one guy. And it may not necessarily even be working out for the team. So what do you mean the right way? Is there only one right way to play? Yes, we know play defense, box out, get rebounds, run the court in transition, communicate, be a good teammate, encourage each other, right? High fives, make the extra pass, be selfless, right? Be confident, play with confidence, play within your game. All these things, play the right way. But when you're looking at a guy like Jonathan Kuminga, who might be Jaylen Brown, who might be probably one of the most athletic, dominant forces in terms of talent in the NBA, and your right way is don't be aggressive, find somebody else to pass the ball to. Don't be too aggressive. We got somebody else we'd rather give the ball to. Who? Explain that to me. So I think at this point, the cat's out the bag. It don't matter. Hey, you can say whatever you want. Psst. The man dropped 30 in game 3. The man dropped 30 in game 3. And I believe he had, pull it up here. Damn, this boy's only 22 years old. Crazy work. He had 36 last night. Shot 11 for 18 from the field. 3 of 4 from 3. 5 of 6 from the free throw line. 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks. With 30 points. Oh, sorry, he played 36 minutes. Had 30 points. The game before that, he played 26 minutes. Shot 8 of 11, 72% from the field. 1 for 3 from the three, 1 from 4 for the free throw line. 5 rebounds, 1 assist, 18 points in 26 minutes. Now tell me this. Why are you only playing a 22-year-old only 26 minutes? I watched his last game. I rewatched it. I think he was the 5th substitute in the game to come into the game. They started Brandon Podziemski, Buddy Hield, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, Quentin Post. How many of those starters are better than Jonathan Kaminga? Maybe Jimmy Butler. So then you say, okay, well then coming off the bench, who was better than Jonathan Kaminga? Yeah, 12 people played before him, subbed in on game 2. Facts. It was hilarious. It was hilarious. Oh, this is an interactive live. So if you put something in the chat, we gonna chop it up. You know what I mean? Um, but it's to say, when you look at what Jonathan Kaminga is forcing them to do, is to reckon with. He's too damn talented to keep on the bench. I watched him lock up Anthony Edwards in the first half of game 3, moving his feet, knocking the ball away, blocking shots at the top of the rim, right? Like he's literally meeting McDaniels, Jaden or Jalen. They're twin brothers. Jalen McDaniels at the top of the rim, blocking the shot, blocking 3-point attempts, flying around out there, getting out in transition, scoring seemingly with ease, getting to the free throw line just as easily with no plays called for him. No plays called for him. Guys looking him off. Kuminga's in transition, only one guy ahead of him. Buddy Hield's bringing the ball up, playing point for some reason. Kuminga's right there in line saying, ball, 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 ball. Kuminga looks him off to bring the ball up. Dribble, 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 on ball screen, dribble, 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 brick. Tell me what's going on here. Say you don't fuck with Jonathan Kuminga without saying you don't fuck with Jonathan Kuminga. I'm sorry, Buddy Hield, we know who you are. Great shooter. Great shooter. All intents and purposes. Great shooter. Great shooter. You're not a better player than Jonathan Kuminga. When you're at your best, it's catch and shoot. Or pump fake, get downhill. You're not a point guard. You're not a facilitator. When you have a guy at the time, Kuminga, I think he was 4 for 4 in the first half. He's running ahead of you. There's only 1 or 2 defenders ahead of you as the ball handler, and you see Kuminga already ahead of you. You should have been passing that ball immediately. Steve Kerr ego is not allowing him to adjust. He's scared that Kuminga is proving him wrong by playing better. I've been saying this, man. I don't know if it's ego or just he's just limited as a coach. I think he's just limited at this point because he puts on the face. Remember, Steve Kerr is a master people manager. He says what he believes. He says what he thinks you need to hear. He says what he believes that should be for the sake of the team and the outlook of a team. But it's also built around his outlook or limited outlook in terms of what he can imagine. He's only recommending and saying things based upon what he knows his potential. He ain't recommending anything that's outside of his capacity or abilities. Right? He's not asking Kaminga to do more than what the system he's created allows him to do. And so too many of these comments that I hear from commentators, even from Steve Kerr, oh man, he's done a great job of staying ready. Instead of shit, I probably should have been playing this guy more all season long, especially towards the end of the season to build better chemistry. Because now in the playoffs, we need him more than ever, and he doesn't have chemistry with the rest of the guys. The other guys don't know what to do with him. We haven't had any minutes with Jimmy and Kuminga on the court together. We haven't had minutes with Jimmy, Kuminga, and Draymond Green together. We don't know the right rotation around the we're now having to figure it out because I didn't prepare this team for it throughout the season. even though the writing should have been on the wall, should have been on the wall that you were going to need Jonathan Kaminga. He's too big of a talent. And so he's forced their hand. Jonathan Kaminga has officially forced the Golden State Warriors' hand. They're either going to have to split to the left, where they say, we're going to keep Jonathan Kaminga, and everything else is going to have to change. More than likely, Draymond Green will be traded. Steve Kerr will probably have to be let go. Bring in somebody like Michael Malone. And you bring in somebody with the creativity to build an offense that can incorporate Stephen Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Jonathan Kuminga. Or you go to the right and you sign and trade Jonathan Kuminga. You get back, hopefully, an asset, a center, a veteran point guard, distributor, preferably you could be a point of attack defender, and maybe a draft pick. But that's all they have the ability to do at this point. There's no middle road anymore where you act like he's not as valuable as he is, where he's not as good as he is, and then you kind of placate everyone through the media manipulation with these narratives that he still needs to figure things out. Oh, I know he scored 30 points, but he still needs to figure out how to play the game. He's not playing it at a high enough level yet. The fuck? I thought the point of the game was put the ball in the hole. Stephen Curry puts up 30 in the playoffs. Man, he's just special. He's special. Klay Thompson puts up, oh man, yeah, that's just Klay. Jonathan Kuminga puts it up, man, he's done a good job staying ready. I'm glad he's figuring things out. Fuck is he figuring out? This is it. This is it. This is his last chance to position himself to maximize his earning potential. And I've done videos in the past of how messed up that is to do Jonathan Kaminga in this way in his contract year. He's supporting his family. He comes from the Congo in Africa. That's war-torn state that all sorts of things are happening that prevent that economy and that community from really developing. Basically, so companies can mine their minerals so we can have, Silicon Valley and technology. But it's just to say that what he's carrying, what he has the potential to do with his home, with his family, with his community, with his people, based upon his earning potential, carries a weight that should have had more respect. That you can't play with this dude's money. There's a reason why he didn't go to college and he went to the G League to play for the Ignite so he can get paid off top. Because he's got responsibilities. He's got real things that he's carrying as a young man. He's only 22 years old right now. Came in at 18. Started for a G League team, averaged over 15 points a game. And you're telling me he needs to figure out more things. And I think this was the problem all along. Is that because they lacked the creativity to incorporate him and develop him, and because they were not willing to break away from this system that they had revolved around Stephen Curry for so long, that he just fell into the shadows. They needed him to be Andre Iguodala. They needed him to be, what's his name? Not an Andrew Wiggins. I mean, now kind of Andrew Wiggins, but then they brought in Jimmy Butler. They've needed him to be like a Sean Livingston guy. They needed him to be someone who didn't necessarily need the ball in his hands, could play without the ball, and just backdoor cut, do all this other stuff. And then every once in a while, get to the rim, get to the free throw line. But that's usually when Steph is not in the game. Instead of recognizing that you can also create a system that can incorporate a Jonathan Kuminga getting downhill, running pick and roll, Stephen Curry being able to play off of Kaminga. But the thing is, to do that, you would have to then take the ball out of Draymond Green's hand. And you would have to creatively develop a system that allows you to still utilize Draymond Green to a degree, but maybe in a different way. But then that would also diminish his value on the team before his contract extension recently last year. So these are all things that are taking place in the nuances of the Golden State Warriors. But at this point, none of the rest matters. You're either going to get rid of him or you're going to keep him. He's forced their hand. All the what he needs, he dropped 30. A good 30. A beautiful 30. High level 30. Jonathan Kuminga is here. And I'm hoping he gets a chance to be him someplace else. I think that team should be the Utah Jazz. Y'all let me know what you think in the comment section. If you made it to the end of the video, smash the like button for me, hit subscribe and the bell for notifications. My name is Ross. Your man, 100 grand with The Rock Never Stops. I do interactive lives. So if you enjoyed this live, smash the like button so you can be notified for my lives later on. I usually do them almost daily. You have an opportunity to jump on with me, talk with me in the comment section. King Onima, appreciate you, jumping in, man. Let me get to these last two. Oh, three comments. Oh, I missed the other one. Kirk created a narrative that Kaminga's IQ is low. That isn't fair because he doesn't get to play and live with the mistakes. Yep, to allow him to learn what works and doesn't work for him. Lack of playing time. Facts. Because nobody was saying that about Stephen Curry when he was turning the ball over nonstop throughout most of his career, which is why they need Draymond Green to run the point. And Steph play as more of an off-ball shooting guard. I don't like to bash other players, but if Kaminga even got half the trust Kerr gave Pods, he would have been an all-star. Bro, but then they would have had to reorchestrate the roster and the system and they were not willing to do it. They should have traded Wiggins, try to get somebody like Brooke Lopez. They should have made a deal like that instead of keeping him around. But like I said, when he was the second best player in a championship run, it's kind of hard to do that. They needed to pivot. I believe it was Jay. No, it wasn't Jay Bellis, Bayless, whatever. Who said it? But he says it's better to make a move a year or two too early than a year or two too late. It's better to make a move a year or two too early than it is too late. This decision right now should have been made. It probably should have made this decision around Jonathan Kaminga back in the 22-23 season, right after they won that championship. While Andrew Wiggins' value is sky high, they should have said, now's the time to pull the trigger. We can go out and get our Andrew Bogut. We can go out and get our high level shooting guard if we're not going to hang on to Clay, right? We can get that perimeter defender. We can go out and get the guy, and we have Kaminga now at the three. We could fill a hole, and we can sell early while the value is high. Instead, they waited until the value was low. And now they're locked into Jimmy Butler's contract. An aging 35-year-old Jimmy Butler is going to get paid $50 million over the next couple of seasons. So that's where they're at. It is what it is. I'm also a Dub fan for 15 years. I'm also from the Congo. You can imagine how happy I was. We got Kuminga. Bro, I thought, I'm going to be honest with y'all, I fucks with the Congo. I thought Emmanuel Mudiay was going to be him, but he got railroaded and done wrong in Denver. And then when he went to New York, he got done wrong, and I think he kind of lost the love for the game. But he had talent. He had talent in a better situation, in a better position. I think Emmanuel Mudiay would have been nice. Would have been nice. But shout out to the Congo. There's a whole lot of talent coming out of the continent. Ludamari, easy subscribe. I appreciate that, brother. I appreciate. Definitely smash the like button. Tell your algorithm that you want to see more of my lives and be notified when I come on. Oh, Shane Gretzky was good. Detroit need him. All right, I talked about this last video. I think as talented as he is, he duplicates Asar Thompson and Jaden Ivey too much. He overlaps too much of what they do. And they do more things in other areas. And so I think he is more valuable unless they plan to do like a 2-for-1. But why would you do that? Why would you have two for the price of one? You know what I mean? Like why would you, you know what I mean? So I don't think that they trade for Jonathan Kaminga. He's going to get 30 million. They still need to re-sign. They need to extend Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren this offseason, and then they'll have Asar Thompson to extend next year. All to say, fully expect Kuminga to be someplace else. The Nets and the Bulls actually want him. Completely true. Completely true. The Bulls have been talking about it for a while. I think Modest Buzelis at 6'10", as he continues to fill out, I think he'll be a nice power forward. And I think Kuminga at the three, I think that would be an incredible forward lineup for the Chicago Bulls with Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu. I'm not as big on Josh Giddey. I think he's a good supplementary piece. If he's your fourth best player in a starting lineup for a championship team, I think he could be that fourth or fifth. I don't think he's worth 30 plus million. I don't even know if he's worth 20. He might be worth 22, but not on this roster. Not when you still have Kobe White, not when you still have Io DeSumo, not when you have I even like Trey Jones. So they have a lot of other options, plus Lonzo Ball. So you got Lonzo, you got DeSumo, you got Kobe White, you got Jones. Is there really room for Josh Giddey, especially somebody who gets picked on defense? And in the playoffs, play in, kind of got exposed, and you kind of see what his ceiling is. He's not somebody who gets you to the promised land. All that's to say is that's how I would build the Chicago Bulls. The Brooklyn Nets should go all in for Jonathan Kuminga. Should go all in. If you got to give up Nicholas Claxton with a sign and trade, something like that, do it. Do it. Go get you Jonathan. Go get you somebody you can build your offense around to play next to Cam Johnson, Cam Thomas. Get you a point guard in the draft. Hopefully, you get somebody like Dylan Harper. Right. Go out and do what you need to do. Jonathan Kuminga is him. He's here. There's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't deny it anymore. You can't talk about IQ. You can't talk about needs to figure it out, work on some things. You can't continue to undermine his game and act like he's not as talented as he is. These last two games, doesn't matter how the rest of the playoffs ensue. It doesn't matter what happens in game 4, 5, or 6, or 7. We see it. Remember, ain't no play calls being made for Jonathan Kuminga. The team don't even know how to clear out for him. Kayvon Looney's sitting there in the short corner on the strong side, and Moody and Kaminga's like, bro, get out of here. Get out of here. Your man's not guarding you. He's guarding me. I'm about to bust this dude's ass and get to the rim, but you in the way. And then Looney's like, okay. Because he's so used to playing with Steph. Dribble handoff, hand it back, passing the ball, quick cut, get it back. That works cool for some, but that's not for everybody. You need to learn how to get the hell out the way. Get it off the glass if you want the ball. Type of deal. Right? That's what Rudy Gobert had to figure out. And he does well. So at this point, it is what it is. Yo, it's your man, 100 Grand Ross with The Rock Never Stops. Coming to you with another video. Jonathan Kaminga is here, forcing their hand. He's about to do big things in his league. I love what I see in the playoffs. If you enjoy these interactive lives, being able to chop it up with me in a live, please like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. It lets your algorithm know you'd like to be able to chop it up in a live chat. You feel me? I'm going to holler at y'all later. Peace.